Hello, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 with a look at some of the criticisms of Imperator Rome. You know, is it a debacle? Is it a bad game? We're going to take a quick look at some of the comments. There's a game, maybe even two, coming up in this video that you probably don't know about, so you probably either want to stick around, or if you want to just skip ahead when we'll get to that. I think you'll be very interested. Again, you probably don't know about it, but so stick around for it. And hey, please hit the subscribe button for many more gaming videos on historically based games, Paradox games, and others. Okay, so I want to take a look at some of the comments here because I've been playing a bunch of Imperator Rome, and I must say right up front, I've been loving it. But let's look at some of the comments here. Empty game, you can feel the avalanche of DLCs coming. Can't quite agree with the empty game, but yes, you can feel the avalanche of DLCs coming. They're going to be coming. There's going to be a lot of them. Don't know how fast and furious, but there will be more coming. That is definite. That is the business model of Paradox games. If you don't like that business model, then stay away. It's just the fact of it. I remember the olden days when you went into a store, you bought a game on CD. Hey, I even remember buying it on floppy disk, when discs were still actually floppy. But that's long ago, when the game was either worked or it didn't because there were bugs. There was no fix. You got it, so the game was done. That's no longer the case, and Paradox is definitely looking at a game that is designed from the outset to have lots of DLCs. Okay, too low difficulty. Nation blob without any difficulty. Yeah, that's up to the player, what nation you're playing, I guess. That's sort of somewhat subjective. Very bad AI, even by Paradox standards. No, this is wrong. Hearts of Iron 4 had a very bad AI at release. Or no, a very, very bad AI, Combat 1 AI at release. Now it's probably just bad. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying it's a great AI. There's a big gulf between very bad and great. At least somewhere in the middle, I would say. Very messy user interface that should not have been passing pre-alpha. For example, and I agree with this example, events refer to persons by their first name, but the tooltip to the right portraying them has their surname below it, so if you hover over them to figure out who they're talking about. Yes, that is a problem. I don't know what they were thinking, whether they're just two different departments didn't ever communicate and no one noticed. So that is a definite, a real, a minor thing, I would say, but a real thing, a real criticism. Okay, let's come down here. Tutorial that I've put up there on Army and Loyalties, one of the episodes of my Let's Play series. Didn't mean this to be a plug, but hey, it's here. Okay, mostly just disappointed. I know Paradox, and I know that in a few years this game will be awesome, but it sure would be nice to play a Roman game era at launch and not be disappointed. Rome 2, I haven't forgot. Okay, and also over here, not recommending. This game isn't finished. It is bare bones. It is so bare bones it's laughable. Paradox games I'll buy on release. That is it for sure. What a joke. Okay, I absolutely agree with this game isn't finished. And yeah, I understand he's disappointed. Feels bland and generic. What to build for building types. We'll get to some of that in a little bit. We're going to look at that in a couple of games. Whether they're playing as Rome or generic German tribe, they're the same. I agree. Yeah, that could be done better. Playing EU4 and CK2. Now those games are much more developed. So again, talking about the business model. If you don't want to deal with, and I do say please hurry and announce the DLC, I'll buy it. If you don't want to buy a game that isn't finished, that requires DLCs to really give the full picture, wait until Imperator Rome 2 is announced, and then probably for cheaper, maybe even much cheaper than the base game, you'll be able to get Imperator Rome and all the DLCs all bought, all one at one time, and it will be complete, and you'll have the complete game. Buy it, it'll be great, because I do believe the game will be awesome at some point. And well, buying on release, if you mean in the moment it's released, that's questionable. You should never buy a pre-order a game unless you just want to support the developers, often like an indie game project. You just want to support them, and the game, whatever the game turns out to be, you're just trying to support their efforts. But even the former CEO of Paradox agreed with me on a tweet that you should never pre-order a game. Frederick Wesser, who's now in charge of special projects or whatever within Paradox. You should not pre-order a game. You should wait until you can watch some YouTubers, not just me or one YouTuber, but watch a bunch of different YouTubers play the game, see what they have to say about the game before you ever put your money down. I remember the olden days when you looked at box art on it to figure out whether you wanted to buy it, and there was almost no other way to really get a good look at the game. So with YouTube and whatnot, you can get a decent idea if the game is for you. Another why you should watch my series of video games, another one of my episodes. Okay, amazing map and graphics, yes, but the gameplay is so bare bones, it's unbelievable. I'm not going to disagree with its bare bones, but unbelievable part, I think, are being hyperbolic. Maybe it'll be good in a few years with a lot of content patches, but I paid full price, which stands on its own merits, including before being inundated with DLCs. Yeah, that's, like I say, that's their model. Unbelievable, I'm going to disagree with part. They're overstating this, but it is somewhat bare bones. We'll get to that and looking at it here in just a moment. Looking for, okay, not recommended. This is getting tiring. Every single release, Stellaris Hearts of Iron 4 has been weaker and weaker. I have not played Stellaris, but yeah, Hearts of Iron 4 was very weak release. This game will be great in a decade, a little tiny bit less, and they know it. They released it unfinished. Well, game companies and Paradox, maybe particularly, tries to hype their game to make sales. And so you should just know this about Paradox, that what they release at the beginning is nowhere, they released it unfinished because they're planning on doing more to it. Now, what's in the game, move capital buttons and whatnot, should that be at release? I would think so, but another week release requires DLCs and the current price tag. Well, sure. Wait for DLCs to come out. The main game will be on sale by that point, and you'll be able to get the whole thing for a lot cheaper. Would not recommend it above $20. Well, yeah, wait until it's out on that. Bought the deluxe version because I'm a fool. I guess what? I thought for receiving I would listen to their soundtrack, so I needed to pay an extra $7 if I want to do so. Either way, been playing the game non-stop while the game is somewhat decent. It feels like EU Rome, the character system, is still weak. Okay, well, like I say, I haven't really played EU and EU2 the hell out of that game. Those games way back in the day. Played very little EU4 and very little CK, so I really can't comment on a comparison there. Other than I know all the DLCs to know that those are very, very well developed games. Severely underbaked product from Paradox. See, again, I think a lot of these people come in because they've been playing. Just made me wish I was playing CK2 again. That they're playing a well-developed, whether they started out in their early versions of these other games, or they waited until they were well-developed. It's just, I guess, the expectations of people. They're expecting a fully developed game. Now let's take a quick look here at... Yes, your screen's gone black. Well, okay, now we're over here. Okay, because I think this game is great, but I'm agreeing with some of the criticisms, you know. 4 building types. They're all the same. I made a comment already that something like a marketplace in a port city, that should probably have a special bonus, you know, just here, if built in port city, commerce income, you know, plus 5% more than standard income or whatever already. Something like a granary in a city. For every granary, it should give a little better or a little more supply limit based on number of granaries, not just on the population, because that would be stored food for your army to move. So yeah, they could do the buildings better, and they probably will over time. So I can agree with that. I don't know that the religions really work, other than, and I haven't explored all the different religion things, but they all seem to work about the same. I do know the military traditions vary, but I will say I think the unit types are pathetically limited. You know, because this is basically it, just modified by traditions and other modifiers, so that they're... I've read it, I can recommend it, Legion versus Phalanx. It's a fairly short book, but I do believe it's completely exhausting on all of the battles and between the Phalanx and the Legions, and what's better about the two of them, and looked in, you know, as deep as dive as could be done by the author, Mike Cole. Very good book. So where here, other than Greek sort of names, this unit does just whatever against heavy infantry, where if we really did Phalanx versus Legions on the right terrain, the right conditions, the Phalanx is going to kick the Legion's butt. That's sort of the conclusion of the book. But the Legion is so much more flexible, and often the terrain conditions are not right, meaning open plains that you can secure the flanks on or whatever. And once you form up a phalanx and get it sort of tight, it becomes nearly immovable. You can go forward, basically can't go backwards. You can move forward, where the legions are much more tactically flexible for flanking maneuvers, because they didn't. The phalanx doesn't have a pike square idea. It can't readily protect its flanks and its rear. So the later Renaissance era pike square is somewhat better than that. So yeah, the unit types are very limited. So yeah, this is something of a bare bones, but my God, look at the depth of this. You've got all of these people with their traits. If you're playing as the Ptolemies, you get to marry your relatives, because that's historically what happened. I go into that in another video of why. So Yeah, there's so much potential here. I mean, and there's quite a bit here too. You know, got terrain types of. Well, just keep hitting more hills. Still more hills. Somewhere there should be pastures. Yeah, okay, forests. You know, and deserts out here. So you got terrain types. You've got a lot. But again, it's not a complete game. Now, let's compare that to another game called Field of Glory Empires. Yes, you're watching this. Okay. Screen's gone black. Let me click a thing. Okay. This is Field of Glory Empires. This is a pre-release version of the game for the challenges. I just made one video on it, and the challenge was how many turns. It's a year. Compared to Paradox games, in some ways this is very, very limited, okay? Each turn is a year. Very, very limited. Meant to have many years that the game could expand over, but this was specifically set up with how many turns does it take to conquer Italy as Rome, and so it just has this. My understanding, the release version will have all of the Mediterranean world at least as part of it. I presume out to places like Britain and whatnot, but I don't know how far it will go. But so take this as a, again, pre-release limited cut down version, which they released to a few of us YouTubers for this challenge, so they wanted people to look at it. So I'm not sneaking anything. Click on this. Man, this looks like the Total War series. You got the building types here. Has the capital, aqueduct, paved roads in this province, forage. So you have a limited number of buildings per province based to some degree on the size of the population. You have italic slaves, Celtic slaves, italic citizens. This is what department they're working in. Working for infrastructure and military, working agricultural and health, working citizen. I think this is government or something down here. So does have some of the different cultural and just citizens and slaves, and don't know if it has like tribesmen or whatever, and what it may develop into before release. Again, this is a pre-release. You can look at some of the trade. This is their unit types. Now they have legions, light troops, horse here. Yeah, you can see the different types. Now they have different types of warships. They have different types of horse. They're going to have a lot more unit types than Paradox. Now, when you do have a battle, so currently we're besieging this fortified city with some units here. It does have a sort of a auto resolve thing that I think is a little better than the Paradox battle thing. Not easy to show you here, but what this really has that may make this, for some of you, better than anything Paradox probably ever going to make, because Paradox is sort of limited on what it does, is that when you have a battle, there will be a button that you can push, and what it will do is it will export the battle to a game called Field of Glory 2. We're going to take a quick look at that here. Okay, let's click OK. Now you can see here, which is a tabletop sort of miniature based game that's done into the computers, and so you will export. This is sort of Persian and not related to Rome, but so you'll export. If you own both games, you can export from Empires to Field of Glory 2, the miniatures battle. So it will take all the unit types that it has in your army, export it here. It will also have, you know, your enemies, and you can do this. And so, you know, you can battle it out, and then take whatever the results are from the battle and export it back somewhat seamlessly to Empires. Let's back to the results on this. So this will have much more tactical flexibility. I don't want to shortchange this. There are ledgers, diplomacy, your metal production. You do have your various military leaders, armies, population regions. So you have a bunch, you know, patrician party. You do have political parties here, different factions. So this game is still in development, but, and again, I think this is representative of the number of provinces and the types, you know, that we're going to see, but it's going to be, again, a much bigger area. I don't want to create the wrong impression over this very limited early release version of the game. So this is Field of Glory Empire. So compare this to, oh, come on. Oh. Here's one. To this. This has a lot more nuances to it in many ways. You know, daily turns, if you will, more or less real time. I don't know. I suspect the Empire's map will not go to India, but I do expect it to have Egypt and Syria type at least, and I presume up to at least southern Britain, but I don't know. But they definitely said it'll be the Mediterranean world on that game. So yeah, I think people's expectations, it's more of an expectations game than whether this game is good or bad, because I think this game is really good and has a lot of great potential, but it's just, you know, it's starting out. It's the early days. So I guess that's my take on this. I hope it's helpful, because I see all of this, in my opinion, hyperbolic bad press. I'm not disagreeing with some of what they're saying, but I think they're overstating it. So hey, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you dislike the video, fine, give it a thumbs down, but please post in your comments below why. It gives me, you know, do you not like how I presented this? You don't like my conclusions? You just, you know, what you don't like about it, I would like to know. I honestly would. I'd love to just hear your comments, whether about Imperator Rome and the release, Field of Glory Empires, Field of Glory 2, the miniature battle and their integration, whatnot. Also, if you didn't take my hint at the beginning of this, please subscribe to the channel for many more historical videos. So thanks so much. See you next time for more historical gaming.